Hello, y'all. I'm going to be making a scale mail bag today. But first, there's a little assistant over here you guys might like. Hello, assistant. Yeah, she's ignoring me. Like the thing she is that I'm not going to say because we need to be child friendly. Alright. Anyway. We are going to be using large scales. You need 144 of them. I have 3 colors. I went with gold, red, and black because I think it's going to look cool. And you need about 500 rings, and they are, you can read it there, 16 gauge, 5/16 ID. Alright. First things first, open a lot of them. All of them. You have 8 closed ones. Put all 8 of these little buggers onto one of your open rings. Might be a slight tight fit, but it'll be fine, don't worry about it. Alright, now you get this mumbled mess there that looks like nothing. Take 2 of them. Take an open ring. Hook them together. Now, you get your third ring up here. Maybe. There we go. I'm going to take another one of your open rings. And you're going to hook together one of the ones that's already hooked and your new one. Now if you put that ring in front of your previous ring, these two, if you put the one you just put on in front of the one you put on just before it, in front, then you want to keep up with that pattern of always being in front. And you just keep going with one of the ones that's hooked and your new ring that isn't hooked yet. And then you drop it. Ah, well, I didn't lose my spot. That's good. I don't want anyone to be getting false ideas on this. It takes anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to make one of these stupid things. Well, they're not stupid, I like them. So don't think it's just like, oh, I'm going to sit down and play with rings for an hour. No, it's going to take a bit. That's why most people just buy them. Alright. Now eventually, you're going to get to a spot where the next ring in line is already hooked to your previous ring. If you've been going in front, and you want to be in front of the one that you just put on, and behind the other one, so that you keep your pattern. So every ring in a row is on top of another ring in the row, and underneath one of the rings in the row. I don't know if you can see it very well there. All of this row is underneath one over here and in front of the one over here. Good. Alright. Now for the really weird part. You want to go through with your open rings and put a ring hooked onto just one of your first 8. So that you have your middle ring that's all closed up pretty. Then you have your row of 8, and the next row is going to have a row of 16. Alright, this thing is going to look very messy, very sloppy, and we don't care. We care about what it looks like when it's done. So now, we'll go ahead and hook 2 of the rings on our outside row. Alright, as I was saying before the computer went dumb, whichever way you were laying on top of in the previous row, you want to do the opposite in the next row. So, if I'm going to the left, get the camera still working. If I'm going to the left in the previous row, my rings were underneath. So this time around, I want them to be above. And we just continue around, and our row is going to end up with 16 new rings in it. Well, as I sit here, I wonder if it might be easier for you guys to see, but put this camera in front of my belly pointing outward. Perhaps I will try this with the next video. Or I can try it right now. Yeah. I think it's a little easier for y'all to see. Slightly blurred, don't like that. This helps a lot. I was trying to focus on the gun cabinet way across the room. Alright, now, where were we? Yes, we were putting this row of rings on. Many Magic players that may or may not be in an audience here probably recognize the card on this playmat. Anybody wants to take a guess on what that is, you can leave it down in the comments. Alright, now this is the last one of our row, so we want to kind of match the pattern, and behind this one and in front of this one. Alright, so we end up with this menagerie here of a mess. That's okay. Again, what matters is what's at the end, not at the beginning. Alright, I'm going to pour another row on. Now we want that row to stay as our 16. And again, alternate what goes where on your which rings are behind which rings here. Make sure that you're getting your closures nice and snug so that you don't have as much of a chance of scratching whatever you decide to put in your bag. If you run your finger across where you're closing your ring at, you'll know real quick if it's got a snag to it or not. Or if you have really good eyesight, you check it that way. Alright, as you can see, we're starting to make more of a circle. And on this row, we want to increase our ring count again. Now, the reason we're not just leaving it on one ring count or increasing every time around is we want this to be a circle at the bottom of our bag. And if we were to increase every time, we get more of a cone. And if you don't increase, you get a really stretched out, ugly thing. Alright, so we're going to increase by 8 again. And since we have 16 on here, we're just going to skip in between. So every other one. We'll put one there. We'll skip that one. We'll put one here. Alright, so our outside ring should have 24, outside circle should have 24 rings. There we go. And that's the limit of where we're going to go, so let's put our last row. That was our last increase, so we'll put our next row on. There we go. And we have gone all the way around. I like to put it down here. Make sure, lay it flat, make sure you ain't got any oopses. I like to anyway. You'll know if you have any mistakes because it just won't look right. Back up here. And after we get our 24 on there, 24 ring, without fillers, now we're going to start putting on our scales. That's the fun part. And we're going to start with ready, because ready. Okay. So we hooked our scale to a ring with another ring. Want to lay. It's not focusing very good. Want to look like that. The reason that is important because when we're done, we want our scales to point down. Rings over on this other side here. I'm right-handed. Gotta have them where I need them. And then keep to the pattern. I don't even point it up high enough, do I? Nope. Yeah, now I do. Ooh, get you a better image of that. Like that picture. It's a good picture. Alright. So, we'll look like this now. We just want to do that all the way around, because it's all about circles. Ah, crap. And this is how you make mistakes. I'm supposed to alternate colors. That's how my design went. Not a big deal though. There we go. Colorful. We're just going to hold that pattern. Okay, so we went all the way around, and now our looks like a funky dream catcher of death. Didn't. I like to lay it on the ground. Make sure that I didn't oops anywhere. It looks good. Cat wandered away. Alright. Now, you kind of gotta, if you're doing like this is, where it's a multicolor pattern, if you're following a pattern with the colors, you gotta figure out what you want to do with it. I'm gonna have mine zoom up this way. Do a kind of a spiral thing with it. So I'll need same color to the left of every other one. I'm putting these rings in here, put the scales on. I want to kind of match the pattern with it. It's like a weird European foreign one, which I will have to go over it with you all at some point. Okay, looks like that. But then when you look at it from the other side, ta-da! You don't see all the mess, you just see pretty scales. Alright, now since I'm doing that pattern, red. And you just go around the circle again. Okay, so our second row of scales is done. And now you're going to notice something that I like having fixed. Doesn't need to be fixed. I've never actually had an issue with it, but it does bother me because I like to make sure everything's perfect kind of thing. Where you have your second row of scales in, you'll notice that you have a decent sized gap underneath them where things can fit through. I shove my pinky through there, see? That's bad. I don't like it. There's a chance somebody loses a dice through there, and then I would feel bad. If they're using it as a dice bag like I would. I have had people that just wanted them to keep phones and whatnot in. It's up to you. I don't care what you use it for. Easy fix though. Get your little ring. And these two here. And this one. And this one. And then the two under them that have all the scales connected together. You weave them together with a European foreign one. Sometimes it's a little bit of a pain, but it can be done. A lot bit of a pain. And then you ain't got that gap anymore. Probably can't see very well. Can't get my pinky through it. So, you go ahead and you do that. all the way around. And now we'll be doing it on super speed. Alright, now that we've gone all the way around, make sure the pinky didn't slip through anywhere. All we gotta do now is continue putting our scales on. Welcome back. Got all our scales on here. 144 scales, a nice little circle thing here. We closed up 8 more rings. Okay. Alright. And we still got our bunches of open ones. Now, we want to add rings connecting our scales because we want to put this back at 24 rings instead of 12. So if we were to continue with the 12, we would end up with a really tiny hole to get our stuff out. We don't want that. We want a regular hole. Just put a ring in there like that. Nothing fancy. But by doing this, we'll be able to make everything work together. Okay, after you have your rings all the way around, we need to add one more ring before we can start setting up for our closure. These 2 rings here, we want to connect them, and this is going to line up with the scales. So 12 more rings to go. And then we can start ending this. Okay, after you get those rings on, we're ready to start the final step. You're almost there. You stuck with me this far, we're almost to the end. Alright. Hands are getting stiff. Now, the same here, this one here above the scale, they are your 2 you're going to worry about. What we're going to do is we're going to put 3 in place, Then we're going to skip a spot. And then you put 3 in, and you skip a spot. 3 in, skip a spot. All the way around until you've gone all the way around. And this is going to make little flappies. So that when you close your bag, you don't end up with this weird bunched up thing at the top. Now I'm going to do something else while I'm here, because I just prefer doing it that way. After you get your 3 on, I like to go ahead and put the 2 at the top here to make your flappy into a little triangle. Don't put the final one up at the top though, and that will make more sense here in a second. And then you're going to end up with this here little 5-piece flap. You're going to have 6 of those going around your outside. Alright, now that we have our 6 flappies, we are officially done with the rings. So, we are going to need a cone bead, some leather strips, or paracord, whatever you want to use, scissors. Alright, so we find one of our little flappers at the end of our leather. And those 2 that are at the top, just weave some leather into them. Like so. Go to the next one. Put your leather through. Rinse and repeat. Once you're all the way through, the bag's going to have two ends to your string here. We obviously do not want them this long. So, get to a length. Make sure your bag can open fully. And you're going to have room to tie them off. Now, we shove these through our cone bead. It's a tight fit, that's a good thing. You'll see why here in a second. Equal length. Make sure you can still open good. Go ahead and tie them off. You want your knot to be pretty tight. Gotta make sure your cone bead can't slide past it. Then, I like to trim these up some, so I don't have too big of a piece sticking out. Ta-da! Close up our bag, pull the strings, slide our cone down, and it stays down. One beautiful bag.